So, my friends, yesterday on Shabbos, I was privy to a conversation that basically knocked my socks off. I'm sitting there, and it's after Mincha, and a few guys from the minyan sitting, waiting for Mariv, waiting for the evening to kick in, for us to daven evening prayer. And my father starts mentioning how we went to see this movie, October 8th documentary, and the thing that he concluded, which is pretty much the same thing I concluded, and what any normal person should conclude, or should ask, is, can Jews in America defend themselves? Are we armed enough? Are we ready to defend ourselves? And so my father asked the question of the minyan, of the gentleman, the wonderful gentleman in the minyan, who I am fond of, don't get me wrong. Are you gentlemen able to defend yourselves if someone comes to attack you? Their response, what was their initial response? What do you mean by attack? Like a verbal attack? Or a physical attack? Do you mean like somebody's gonna come to my house? Someone's actually gonna come to my house and try to attack my family? Some like anti-Semites? And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna let this discussion or the kind of this back and forth play out. And my father keeps pushing. And for my father, he's a simple man, and my father sometimes it's a combination of two things. It might be a language thing, but also he likes to speak in innuendos, and he likes to allow. This is something he would do with me when I was younger. He likes to allow people to figure out what it is that he's implying, right? Because he wants to see if these people are in the least bit, if they have any kind of, I guess, deductive or inductive reasoning, whatever you call it, and it's like in the least bit intelligent, right, of where he's going with this, right? And they couldn't grasp what he's asking. And then he started talking about the city of Patterson, right? The self-proclaimed, third capital or fourth capital of the so-called, we call them, in Russian, we call them plastilinцы, like plastilin, like people who are made of clay, like Gumby. The self-proclaimed capital of the plastilinцы, right? Of the plastilinsky people. And so he mentioned that. And one of them finally is like, oh, I understand what you're saying. Okay. Well, and then he starts going on about, I had this self-defense course in the 80s, and you don't even need to shoot anybody. You just, you do this whole, and when he said it, he was said in a different way, but the way he described it made me think of, if you guys remember from Scent of a Woman, when Colonel Slade, Al Pacino, did the Ranger chokehold on this guy at the Thanksgiving dinner, and he goes, that's a Ranger chokehold. Cut off your windpipe. Hoo-ah. It was like, that's what he basically is describing, right? This guy was describing. And I'm thinking to myself, there's 3 orcs that just crossed the river, and they came into your town, and they came into your house, and you're going to do a Ranger chokehold on one of them. And I'm thinking, what about the other 2 guys? Right? So then, finally, I basically was able to kind of like stop this back and forth my father was having with these people, with these guys, and I said, gentlemen, allow me to translate. If Ahmed and Mustafa walk into your house and they want to unalive your family, what are you going to do? Well, this, that, these. Finally, they got it. My friends, why am I telling you all of this? Am I telling you all of this because I enjoy sitting around and I don't know, like making my fellow co-religionists look bad? No, I do not. I'm trying to tell you this, folks, because it seems to me that we live in a fantasy world. Now, these gentlemen told me a story from years ago, how there was a bunch of anti-Semites that kind of passed by, they were in a car and they passed by the shul, and it just so happened, and they screamed out, dirty K-I-K-E, and then it just so happened that right by the shul there's a railroad track, and there's a railroad crossing, right? And so the barricade went down, and these guys had to stop, right? Now they couldn't get away, and then a bunch of guys from the shul surrounded their car and basically said that, our guys almost flipped their car around. I was like, okay, listen, I mean, you just so happen to have a situation where there's 20 or 30 of you and 4 of these orcs, right? But what about when there's 3 or 4 orcs in your house, right? It's one thing when you Hashem gifted you this wonderful matzav, as we say, situation, but what about somebody comes to your house? What about there's people who live on a particular side of town right next to where this literally Palestinian stronghold is, and all they got to do is cross the river, over the river and through the woods, to the house we go. My friends, I don't know if you saw the video of a policeman in this town called Patterson. He's wearing a Palestinian patch on his uniform, and he's talking about how he's part of this community and blah blah blah. My friends, there's an orc town. It's an orc town in New Jersey, right next to a town which is 50% Jewish. And my friends are saying, Tzvi, why are you saying this? They know. Folks, they know, okay? You know how I know they know? Because they opened a madrasa in the Jewish town, right on the border of the orc town. They know, we know, everybody knows. I asked the policeman of our town, I said, if something happens, God forbid, are you guys in communication with the police over there? He's like, we kind of are, I guess we are. But what good is communication if the policemen are also orcs over there in the other town, in the orc town? My friends, it's like the IDF being in communication with the Palestinian Authority. Or, I don't know, Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, right? The militant wing of Fatah. So, my friends, this all comes back to my original point that I made in the previous video. And again, when anything I say, I'm saying it to myself as well. I'm literally kicking myself in the butt as I'm kicking you, right? Everybody gets a kick in the butt, including I don't exclude myself. Pack your stuff, leave your stupid blue state. I understand, and you might say, Tzvi, well, what do you mean? We have our jobs, we have our businesses here, we have our whatever we have here. My friends, I mean, short of making Aliyah to Israel, right, which is a whole other kid and caboodle, you're gonna sit in this town, in this place, whatever town you're in, as a sitting duck, right? And you could say, Tzvi, we can have a gun in New Jersey, right? Or certain parts of New York State. Folks, by the time you get to it, I always say, by the time you get to the box, you're in a box, right? By the time you get to the box, you end up in a box, right? My friends, again, everything I'm saying it to myself. And B'ezrat Hashem. So, what I'm seeing right now is that a lot of Jews are living in some sort of, if not fantasy world, they're kind of aware of stuff, but they don't really think that anyone is going to come and do anything, right? They don't really think that anybody's going to come to the front of their shul, where some of the shuls have barricades, but there's kids playing behind the barricades, and some of the shuls have nothing, where there's just kids playing in front of the shul. And please come, here you go. My friends, this is absolutely unconscionable. I have a friend who lives in Florida. He's the head of security of a Chabad where he is, South Florida. And we were just talking, and he originally is from the Northeast, and he told me that the things that he saw, compared to what he's able to do in Florida in the shul and the things that he saw, in the shul where he was a congregant before in the Northeast, he's like, I'm appalled. He's just like, you guys are like, you're just a sitting target. You guys are literally a sitting target. I don't understand. So, my friends, with that said, I don't know if anybody else is talking about this. I do have friends up here in this area of the country where, they're involved in self-defense, they're involved in, firearms training, they're involved in all kinds of stuff to protect themselves, to protect other Jews. And I'm kicking myself in the butt for not being more involved in it, right? But at the very least, my friends, at the very least, it starts with consciousness. It starts with understanding what's going on around you. And if you don't understand that you're living next to an orc city where it doesn't have to be hundreds of them, it could be 3 of them or 4 of them, and you think you're going to do something with a Ranger chokehold, I don't know what planet you're living on, and I don't know what you're telling yourself. Anyway, guys, that's just something I wanted to run by today, and Mizrat Hashem, the conversation about this will continue, and everybody should stay safe out there, and most importantly, stay vigilant. Alright, guys, talk to you soon.